Hi, first grade, it's Mrs. Hedesheimer. I made a video for you today just in case you wanted to follow along and also rewind and watch everything step by step today, because we are doing weaving, and weaving can be a little bit tough sometimes. So what we're gonna need is our paper that we painted last time with all of our different kinds of greens on it. If you didn't make one of these, you can get a plain piece of green paper and you can add some patterns and designs with some oil pastel just to make it a little bit more fun. But make sure, no matter what, that your name is on the back so Mrs. Hedesheimer can see it. And I'm also going to write my room number so that I know which class I'm in. Okay, so now we are ready to start. So we're going to be turning our piece of paper into some grass that we can weave some snakes into. So what we need to do first is we need to get some scissors. The scissors are on the shelf next to the glue sticks. Make sure you hold them like this when you're walking with them, so we are making sure we're safe. The next thing we're going to do is decide which side is going to be the top. So I think I want this side to be the top. Oh, actually, I'm going to make this side the top. So whenever you decide it was the top, what I want you to do is, you could just cut, but let's go ahead and plan out how we're going to cut first. So I'm going to take my pencil. Let me find my pencil. And my name's kind of in the way, that's okay. I'm gonna make some triangle shapes at the top because I know the tops of grass have kind of pointy edges. So what I did is I made a zigzag line across the top, and that's what I'm gonna cut so that the tops look like grass, okay? So it's a bunch of little triangles too, you can kind of think of it that way. So now I'm gonna go ahead and use my scissors to cut. I'm gonna turn my paper as I go, cut and turn, cut, and each time I might have a little piece that comes off, that's okay. Cut, turn, cut. Remember, my scissors are like an alligator, and I open my mouth of my alligator away from me so that I don't hurt myself or someone next to me, and I turn my paper as I go. Now we're not doing this very super precise and scientific because I want you to be able to do something like this at home if you want to. So what we're gonna do next is flip it over, and now it looks a little bit more like grass. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut from the bottom of each of our zigzags. We're gonna cut a line that goes straight down, but we don't wanna cut all the way to the bottom. If we cut all the way to the bottom, it'll break into pieces. So what we're gonna do is cut, but then stop before we get to the bottom. And what I like to do to help me, and you can do this if you want, you don't have to if this is confusing, you can fold the bottom to remind yourself not to cut all the way through. So I like to fold a little bit of it up just so I remember, don't cut past here. Okay. So now that I have that little fold and I'm gonna remember, I'm gonna take my scissors and put them in the bottom of one of my zigzags. I'm gonna cut as straight as I can, doesn't need to be perfect, and I'm gonna stop. Look at that, I stopped where the fold was so it doesn't fall off. Okay, let's do it again. Here we go. I'm gonna put my scissors down in the bottom of the V shape, cut, and then stop. So let's go ahead and do all of those, cut and stop. Cut and stop. And if you need to say cut and stop out loud, go ahead. Cut, 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 and stop. Cut, 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 and stop. And guys, notice that my zigzags are really big. If your zigzags are really big, that will be great, because if you have a bunch of teeny tiny zigzags, you don't want to cut too many times. So I cut mine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. That's pretty good. I might cut it one more time just for fun right here. But you see how small that is? If it was any smaller than that, I would not cut that one because I don't want it to rip later. Whenever you have teeny tiny pieces like this, they can easily rip off. So I got to be really careful with that. Okay, now I'm going to flip it back over, and it kind of reminds me of like a fence. So now we have our grass. It looks a little bit more like grass now. And this is actually called a loom. A loom is something that you can weave on. So now we need to find something to weave into our grass. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to the recycle paper and find some paper that I can use. This is a good blue that I found. I can find some kind of banged up stuff and I can use that too. Like I might use this yellow. I found some purple, and this is a really big piece, so I'm going to cut this so somebody else can use some of it too. So I'm going to actually cut a little bit of that off so I can share it with my neighbor. Okay, and then you can use whatever colors you want. We are going to make these our snakes. Now I know snakes usually are wobbly, but we want to be able to weave with our snakes. So we're going to make our snakes kind of skinny. So the first thing we're going to do, and if you would like to use a pencil first, you can. Let me find my pencil. Here it is. And we're going to make a straight line all the way across for our snake. We want to try to make it as straight as we can, but it doesn't need to be perfect. And then when we're ready, we can cut it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. But first, let's make sure our snake is long enough to go across the entire grass. It is, okay, so let's go ahead and cut my snake. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. And right now, this doesn't quite look like a snake yet. It's long like a snake, but it doesn't quite look like one. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna find out which side we want the face to be. Let's say I want this to be the face. And I'm gonna make this square into a curve. And the way to do that is to make like a U shape. And I'm gonna make my U shape go all the way from one side all the way over to the other side. And I'm gonna cut on that line so that I cut off those pointy corners. And now I have a round shape that can be our snake's face. So now, if you don't believe me, let's go ahead and draw on a face. So I have some oil pastels here that I got from the art store, and I could do this with pencil if I wanted to, or a Sharpie even. Let's actually do this one with a Sharpie. So I got this Sharpie at the art store too. Go ahead and I'll just use this brown one. Okay, so if I draw a smile and an eye, look at that, all of a sudden I have a snake. If you wanted to, you could find a red piece of paper and glue on a little tongue if you want. That's part's up to you. But look, the back of our snake is still a rectangle, so let's make that more like a tail. So to make that more like a tail, there's a couple ways you could do it, and I think the easiest way to do it is to take your scissors and cut a little bit down, 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 all the way to the end until it's like pointy at the end. That's how I like to do it, but if you have a different way you like to do it, that's fine too. All right, right now this looks more like a worm. So I'm gonna have one final step for my snakes. I can cut out some shapes and glue them on, or I can use my oil pastels and make some patterns for my snake. So there's his little face. Maybe he has some stripes on him. You can look up some snakes on your computer, some images of snakes, and see what kind of patterns they have. Sometimes they have like stripes. Sometimes these stripes might be colored in. Maybe you have like a triangle on their back. Some of them have triangles on their back. So you can decorate your snake however you want. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do all of these, and I'm gonna do it slowly. I'm gonna try to get to a level 4. That means I'm taking my time and working slowly. Maybe I'll even add something fancy on the back. I don't know, maybe it's just like maybe just some red stripe things over there. So now I have my snake. That looks much more like a snake now, doesn't it? Okay, so let's go ahead and weave our snake. So if I weave my snake like this, I won't be able to see it. So I wanna make sure my snake is facing up, and we're gonna start with his head. We're gonna go on a little journey with our snake through our grass. So it doesn't matter which way you start. You can go under the grass so it pokes out first, or you can go over this one and skip it and then go on to the next one. But either way, we need to do a pattern. So we're gonna go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, all the way to the other side, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start by going over this one, and then when I go under, all I have to do is lift up my grass, have him go a little bit further, and then drop it back down. So I'm gonna have him go, he went over, under, he's gonna go over this one, I'm gonna lift up the next one and go under. Do you see how I'm going over one so you can see it, and then I'm going under one so you can't see it? I'm going over one and then under one. This makes it look like the snake is like going in and out of the grass, weaving in and out, like maybe he's going after some food or something. So I went over this one, under this one, put it back down, over and under. And notice that I did it at the very bottom. The reason I did it at the very bottom is because it's gonna help hold this thing together. And also, now I have room to do another snake, woohoo! All right, so let's get another piece. How about this yellow? And he's gonna kind of stay in there. I don't really need to glue him yet. I can glue him later if I want. I'm gonna go ahead and cut my long, skinny strip for my snake, and I'm gonna check, is he long enough? Yep, he sure is, and he's gonna stick out the side a little bit even. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pencil again. This time, let's make the head go the other way. So I'm gonna make the head go on this side. I'm gonna make a curve, remember, that comes all the way, like a U shape, like this. It goes from one side, can you see that? One side to the other. There it is, one side to the other. I'm gonna cut.